So Romans is one of my favorite books of the Bible. If I were stranded on a deserted island and I could only have one or two books with me, you better believe that Romans is going to be one of them. And in Romans chapter 5, we see some pretty incredible life-changing truths. I mean, first it says that we're saved from the wrath of God and that we have peace with God. That thought alone could totally revolutionize the way we go about life. But a lot of Christians, we certainly don't act like we've got peace with God. Maybe you've thought that God is mad at you at times, He's frustrated, He's up in heaven looking down with a furrowed brow, and He wishes more of you, and He has such high expectations that He gets angry and frustrated with your performance. But remember that the simple truth right there in Romans chapter 5 is that we have peace with God. Sure, we're making peace with other people. The Bible also tells us, be at peace with all people as far as it concerns you. That's a job. That's a job to undertake, being at peace with other people. It involves all kinds of apologies and improved performance and sensitivities. But we don't walk on eggshells with the God of the universe. Romans 5 tells us we have peace with Him. Not only that, we're saved from the wrath of God, it says. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly find a lot of us Christians, we're inventing smaller punishments for sin. Have you ever heard the idea that, well, every time you sin, you fall out of fellowship with God? You know, He distances Himself, He withdraws Himself, and you've got to get back in His good graces somehow through enough apologies, enough repentance, enough improved behavior, and then He will bring Himself back in proximity to you once again. But hang on, because that very next failure could cause Him to distance Himself once again. See, that's not peace with God. That's not being saved from the wrath of God. That's actually inventing a lesser punishment for sin. Did you know that the wages of sin is death, nothing less? And that's why Jesus died. The wages of sin is not that God is ticked off at you for an hour until you do better. The wages of sin is not that you're out of fellowship for a day or two until you improve. The wages of sin is death, and Jesus died. And as I like to say, we need to do the math on that one and celebrate real peace with God. But there's one more nugget in Romans 5 that I want to speak to in this video, and that is the fact that we are saved by the life of Christ, not merely by the death of Christ. It says right there in Romans 5, it says, having been reconciled by the death of Christ, we are now saved by the life of Christ. We might think that it was the cross that saved us, but you know, the cross only cleared the deck. The cross only prepared the situation for God to swoop down and give us His life. We are saved by the resurrection, not merely by the cross. Do you know that you are saved because you possess the resurrection life of Jesus Christ in you? So, we've got some Friday questions, and they're answered. You know, Jesus Christ being crucified on Friday, that might leave us with questions. Is God mad at me? Do I have peace with God? The answer to those is that God has saved us from His wrath, and we do have peace. So let's graduate from Friday, and let's start celebrating the reality of Sunday, the reality of His resurrection life in you forever.